قال المؤلف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, فهؤلاء الذين يكفرون الشخص لأنه قصد قبر الرسول أو غيره من الأولياء للتبرك. So those who deem as a blasphemer a person because he sought the messenger's grave or someone else's grave, such as some of the saints, for seeking blessings, فَهُمْ جَهِلُوا مَعْنَى الْعِبَادَةِ. Those people are ignorant about the meaning of worship. And don't forget though, very important, even if we say worship in English or whatever language you speak, whatever ibadah translates into, however ibadah translates into another language, important thing is to always take it back to the definition of ibadah in Arabic, just so the Wahhabi doesn't argue with you by some other means. So we're saying worship here, and we mean by worship the Arabic word ibadah and how it is defined in particular, not anything else. وَخَالَفُوا مَا عَلَيْهِ الْمُسْلِمُونَ, and they are against what the Muslims are upon. لأن المسلمين سلفا وخلفا لم يزالوا يزورون قبر النبي للتبرك. Because the Muslims, the predecessors and the latter day ones, never cease to visit the Prophet's grave للتبرك, for seeking blessings. وليس معنى الزيارة للتبرك أن الرسول يخلق لهم البركة. And visiting for blessing does not mean that the messenger creates the blessing for them. That's an important statement for you too, so that you can clarify for a Wahhabi. بل المعنى أنهم يرجون أن يخلق الله لهم البركة بزيارتهم لقبره. Rather, the meaning is that they, those visitors, hope that Allah will create the blessing for them by their visiting his grave. But Wahhabi creed is that there is nothing good about a grave. For Wahhabi, there is no blessing at a grave in the first place. So this is a bad idea. A Wahhabi creed is that a grave should not be sought. There's no reason for it. والدليل على ذلك ما رواه البيهقي بإسناد صحيح عن مالك الدار. And the evidence for that is what Al-Bayhaqi narrated with an authentic chain of narration from Malik ad-Dar. وَكَانَ خَازِنَ عُمَرٍ. He was Umar's treasurer. Right there means he's approved. He's bona fide. Because we know the strictness of Umar ibn al-Khattab. We know his seriousness about religion. And there's no way that someone like him would put in charge of the treasury anyone less than qualified. The treasury at that, talking about dealing with the money, let alone something else. So this one, on the strength of Umar, must be so sharp, really, religiously, and in worship, and in mind, etc. Qala, so this one, Malik ad-Dar said, أصاب الناس قحط في زمان عمر. A famine hit the people during the time of Umar. فجاء رجل إلى قبر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. So a man came to or went to the Prophet's grave صلى الله عليه وسلم. فقال يا رسول الله. And so he said, O Messenger of God. So who's he addressing? Who's he calling? He says, yeah. Who's he calling? Someone who passed away. Right there, according to the Wahhabi creed, he's a mushrik, kafir. But a Wahhabi is going to tell you every reason why he didn't commit kufr here. But if you were to do the very same thing, you would commit kufr. Unless he can just debunk the hadith altogether. His first way is going to try to debunk the hadith altogether. If he can't debunk the hadith altogether because you have knowledge, so he can't fool you, he can't deceive you, then he will try to explain it in some way that what this man is doing, according to his explanation, is not going to be kufr. But if you do the exact same thing, it will be. And he's going to tell you why you should not do what this man did, so that you don't fall into kufr, even though this man didn't. So he said, Ya Rasulullah, O Messenger of God, istasqi li ummatik, seek the rain for your nation. فَإِنَّهُمْ قَدْ هَلَكُوا, they are perishing. فَأُتِيَ الرَّجُلُ فِي الْمَنَامِ, and so the man was approached in the dream. This means he saw the Prophet in his dream, alayhi salatu wassalam. فَقِيلَ لَهُ أَقْرِئْ عُمَرَ السَّلَامِ, and it was said to him, give Umar the salam, yani pass my salam to Umar. وَأَخْبِرْهُ أَنَّهُمْ يُسْقَوْنَ, and inform him that they shall be watered. وَقُلْ لَهُ عَلَيْكَ الْكَيْسَ الْكَيْسِ, yani al-kays is intelligence, like as if to say to him, be clever, be clever. فَأَتَى الرَّجُلُ عُمَرَ, and so the man went to Umar. فَأَخْبَرَ, and then he informed him, he told him about his dream. So what's Wahhabi going to say? He's going to say, there's no evidence in dreams anyway. This hadith, the entire hadith is not proof because there's no evidence in the dream. These people are so twisted, and they mix up so many things, and they do it so many times on purpose. And other times they do it out of their own confusion, their own fundamental confusion. فَبَكَى عُمَرُ, so then Umar cried. وَقَالَ يَا رَبِّ مَا آلُوا إِلَّا مَا عَجَزْتُ. So Umar said, oh my Lord, I don't fall short unless I'm unable. It's like he's saying, oh my Lord, I'll do anything. So he didn't say, you went to the Prophet's grave, you did what? Are you crazy? Take your shahada. You did what? You asked him for help. Don't you know he died? You did what? You called him after his death? This is major issue in aqidah. Umar didn't do that. Nobody did that. Nobody. Not in that day, nor the next day, nor that year, nor the next year, nor the next century, nor the next century. Nobody said anything, nor the next century, nor the next century. Nobody raised a flag. Nobody said this was dangerous what this man did. For numerous centuries, until one weirdo came. And this weirdo, he's troubled. But Allah gave him a lot of knowledge, and he has delusions of grandeur. And this weirdo, he's the one who said something. And then he got some followers, even later, centuries later, he got some followers. Somehow, a bunch of retarded people made a group. Somehow, retarded people got organized, and they followed a weirdo. And then they pumped his da'wah. The Shaykh says, وَقَدْ جَاءَ فِي تَفْسِيرِ هَذَا الرَّجُلِ أَنَّهُ بِلَالُ بْنُ الْحَارِثِ الْمُزَنِي الصَّحَابِي. It came in clarifying who this man is. Yani, amongst what was reported, yani, it is reported that who this man is Bilal ibn al-Harith al-Muzani, the companion. فهذا الصحابي قد قصد قبر الرسول للتبرك. So this companion, he sought the messenger's grave for the blessing. What if a Wahhabi said to you, oh, that's just one hadith, give me another? You tell him you don't need another. Respond to this one. And that's for any proof you give to any person. You give him a proof, you say, well, give me another one. No, I'm not giving you another one. Take this one. Respond. فَلَمْ يُنْكِرْ عَلَيْهِ عُمَرْ. Umar did not object to him. وَلَا غَيْرُهُ, nor anyone else. So what a Wahhabi might say, like one Wahhabi woman that I talked to, she wrote an article about this. She said, their objection to him was in the fact that they didn't say anything to him. That's how twisted those people are. In the fact that they didn't even say anything to him, that was their objection. How do you think of something like this? When the rule in our religion is that you bid the good and you forbid the evil, you speak up. We're talking about Umar ibn al-Khattab here, amongst others, and centuries of scholars too. What did the Prophet say, alayhi salatu wassalam? فَإِن لَمْ يَسْتَطِيعْ فَبِلِسَانِهِ. If a person can't stop the evil with his hand, then he has to stop it with his tongue. فبطل دعوى ابن تيمية أن هذه الزيارة شركية. And so Ibn Taymiyyah's claim that this visit is paganistic is debunked. وقد قال الحافظ ولي الدين العراقي في حديث أبي هريرة. And Hafiz Waliuddin al-Iraqi said concerning the hadith of Abu Hurairah. Which hadith of Abu Hurairah? أن موسى قال, the one in which Musa alayhi salam said, ربي أدنيني من الأرض المقدسة رمية بحجر. My Lord, draw me as near to the Holy Land as the throw of a stone. That was his dua, so that he would die there. So Allah Ta'ala made the ground between where he was and the Holy Land become a short distance, so that Moses died there, that close to the Holy Land. And that's while the children of Israel were still lost. Why they weren't even in the Holy Land? That's where they were supposed to go after they left Egypt. Because they refused to help Moses fight, alayhi salatu wassalam, because they were afraid, because the occupants of that land were giants. So since they didn't fight, then they couldn't enter the Holy Land, so they were lost for 40 years. And Moses and Aaron were with them, not as a punishment, but they were on duty. So they were with them in that wandering, but they were on duty. And before Moses died, he asked Allah to make him die close to the Holy Land. And this is his dua. رَبِّ أَدْنِنِي مِنَ الْأَرْضِ الْمُقَدَّسَةِ رَمْيَةً بِحَجَرٍ. My Lord, draw me as near to the Holy Land as the throw of a stone. So that's a hadith. Yani, the Prophet said that about Musa in a hadith. And what did the Prophet say about this, alayhi salatu wassalam? وَأَنَّ النَّبِيِّ صلى الله عليه وسلم قال. He said, Wallahi, I swear to God, لو أني عنده لأريتكم قبره إلى جنب الطريق عند الكثيب الأحمر. Had I been there, I would have shown you his grave on the side of the road by the red sand dune or by the red hill. So that's a hadith. Yani, the Prophet ﷺ said, I would show you his grave personally. So what did the Hafiz Waliyuddin Al-Iraqi say about this hadith? He said, فيه استحباب معرفة قبور الصالحين لزيارتها والقيام بحقها. In this hadith is evidence for the recommendation of knowing the graves of the pious, so to visit them and to do what is appropriately done there. Intaha, end quote. Like recite Al-Fatiha, make dua there. Subhanallah. One Wahhabi said to me, this one was white guy, I think his name's Abdullah. He said to me, he said, there's no goodness in the graves. Like he was saying, we can agree. There's no goodness in the graves. He's saying there's no point to be there. There's no reason to go there. So he's saying to me, can't we agree about that? So I said to him, it's not true. And then I gave him this hadith. That Moses said this, and then the Prophet said this. And he didn't have an answer. That's very strong proof here. وقال الحافظ الضياء, and Hafiz al-Diya said, حدثني سالم التل. Salim al-Tal told me, قال, he said, ما رأيت استجابة الدعاء أسرع منها عند هذا القبر. I didn't see a dua answered faster than it's answered at this grave. We're talking about the same grave here. Yani, the meaning here is the Muslims found a grave there, yani, there where the Prophet is talking about. They found a grave that completely fulfills the descriptions that the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wassalam. So the Muslims built a structure there, and yani, visitors go there and they make dua there, and they believe that this is the grave of Moses. So it is preponderant and strong to the Muslims that this is the grave of Moses. But what we learned is that there are only two confirmed graves, confirmed, 100% confirmed, of prophets, I mean. The grave of Abraham and the grave of Muhammad. Salawatullahi ta'ala alayhima wa ala ikhwanihim al-anbiya wal-mursaleen. Wassalam. وحدثني الشيخ عبد الله بن يونس المعروف بالأرمني. And he continues to say, and Shaykh Abdullah ibn Yunus, who's known as Al-Armani, told me, أنه زار هذا القبر, that he visited this grave, وأنه نام, and that he slept there, فرأى في منامه قبة, and in his grave he saw a dome, عنده, يعني قبة عنده, he saw that he was at a dome, وفيها شخص أسمر, therein was a person, a dark-skinned person. So dark-skinned here doesn't mean black-skinned, though there's nothing wrong with having black skin. But it means not white skin. May Allah protect us from the sickness of racism. And may Allah Ta'ala protect us from the race hustlers who incite people's emotions to call them to something other than the Sunnah. So he said, وَفِيهَا شَخْصٌ أَسْمَرٌ. Therein was a man, a dark-skinned man. فَسَلَّمَ عَلَيْهِ. So he gave that man a salam while he's in his dream. وَقَالَ لَهُ. And he said to him, أَنْتَ مُوسَى كَلِيمُ اللَّهِ. You are Moses, the one to whom God spoke. أَوْ قَالَ نَبِيُّ اللَّهِ. Or he said, God's prophet. فَقَالَ نَعَمْ. And so he said, yes. Now, it's possible that this is a question, but there's no indication for me that it's a question. I haven't learned that it's a question, but it is possible, though, that it's a question. And that if it is a question, then it should be read with the inflection of a question. Anta Musa? Are you Moses? Or you are Moses? So it looks like a statement. Anta Musa, you are Moses. Kalimullah, the one to whom God spoke. Or Nabiyullah, or he said, God's prophet. And it's possibly a question. Anta Musa, you are Moses. Kalimullah, the one to whom God spoke. Or he said, Nabiyullah, God's prophet. فَقَالَ نَعَمْ. And so he said, yes. فَقُلْتُ كُلِّ شَيْئًا. And so I said, and the one who's telling his dream, he said, so I said, tell me something, or say something to me. It's like he's aware he's dreaming, for example. Sometimes happens to a person. One brother, he's the one who told me, when he dreams, sometimes when he dreams, he realizes he's dreaming, so then he goes to look for the Prophet, alayhi salatu wassalam. Since he told me that when I would realize, if I would ever realize I was dreaming, I'll go look for the Prophet. I've seen him at least once doing that, alayhi salatu wassalam. And other people told me that when I said that to them, then they did the same thing. فَأَوْمَأَ إِلَيَّ بِأَرْبَعِ أَصَابِعٍ. And so he signaled to me with 4 fingers. وَوَصَفَ طُولَهُنْ. Yani, maybe he doesn't know he's dreaming now. Maybe while he's in his dream, does not occur to him he's dreaming. I'm just commenting. Sometimes it happens to people, though. وَوَصَفَ طُولَهُنْ. So he said he signaled to him with 4 fingers, and he described the length of his fingers. فانتبهت. Then I woke up. وَلَمْ أَدْرِ مَا قَالَ. And I don't know what he said. فَأَخْبَرْتُ الشَّيْخَ ذَيَّالًا بِذَلِكَ. So I told Shaykh Dhayyal about it. فَقَالَ. And so he said, يُولَدُ لَكَ أَرْبَعَةُ أَوْلَادٍ. 4 children shall be born for you. فَقُلْتُ أَنَا قَدْ تَزَوَّجْتُ امْرَأَةً لَمْ أَقْرَبْهَا. So I said, I did marry a woman, but I have yet to approach her. فَقَالَ تَكُونُ غَيْرَ هَذِهِ. He said, the mother of your children will be another one. فَتَزَوَّجْتُ أُخْرَى. He said, and it happened that I did marry another one. فَوَلَدَتْ لِي أَرْبَعَةَ أَوْلَادٍ. And she gave birth to 4 children for me. Intaha. End quote. Ash-SharH, the explanation is that Musa alayhi salam lam yastati' an yutahhira Bayt al-Maqdis. Moses, may peace be upon him, was unable to purify the Holy Land. Min al-kuffar, to purify it from the blasphemers. لما كانوا مستولين عليها, when they were in charge of it, when they had dominance over it, yani they were living there. Like I told you, they came out of Egypt to go there to find that it's occupied by giants. Those giants were kuffar. They're the colossal tyrants. The colossal tyrants. بل مات قبل أن يدخلها. In fact, or rather, he died before he could enter it. وقد طلب من الله أن يدنيه من الأرض المقدسة. And he requested from God to draw him near the Holy Land. قال يا رب. He said, "O Lord, أدنيني من الأرض المقدسة." Bring me close, draw me near to the Holy Land. وَلَوْ مِقْدَارَ رَمْيَةٍ بِحَجَرٍ. Even as much as the measure of a stone throw. فلما جاء أجله قربه الله إلى الأرض المقدسة رمية بحجر. So when his appointed death time came, may Allah forgive us and have mercy on us, Allah brought him close to the Holy Land, as close as the throw of a stone. جعل وفاته بمكان قريب من الأرض المقدسة. He made Moses' death be in a place close to the Holy Land. والأرض المقدسة تبدأ من الجبال التي بعد أريحا إلى بيت المقدس. And the Holy Land starts from the mountains that are after Jericho until Jerusalem. وقبر موسى قبل جبل القدس. The grave of Moses is before Mount Quds. يوجد هناك بأريحا مقام كبير. There is there in Jericho a big grave. له أربعة أبواب. The structure over that grave has 4 doors. باب شرقي وباب غربي وباب شمالي وباب جنوبي. An eastern, a western, a northern, and a southern door. بناه المسلمون. The Muslims built this structure. يأوي إليه الزوار. And the visitors seek shelter there. فيفهم من قول رسول الله عن قبر موسى عليه السلام. So it is understood from God's messenger saying about Moses' grave, may peace be upon him, والله لو أني عنده لأريتكم قبره إلى جنب الطريق عند الكثيب الأحمر. By God, had I been there, I would have shown you his grave on the side of the road by the red dune. وَالَّذِي هُوَ قُرْبَ أَرِيحَا. That one that's close to Jericho. It is understood from this الإشارة إلى أن زيارة قبور الأنبياء والصالحين للتبرك بهم مطلوبة. That visiting the graves of the prophets and the pious for blessing by them is done. It is sought. It should be sought. وعلى هذا كان الأكابر. This is what the elites were upon. وعلى ذلك نصوا. And this is what they have documented. وقد ذكر الإمام أبو الوفاء ابن عقيل الحنبلي. And Imam Abu al-Wafa ibn Aqil the Hanbali mentioned الذي هو من أعمدة المذهب الحنبلي, that one who is one of the pillars of the Hanbali madhab, أنه مما يستحب قوله عند زيارة قبر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. He mentioned that amongst what is recommended to say when visiting the grave of the Messenger of God sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Allahumma innaka qulta fi kitabika li nabiyyik. Oh God, you did indeed say in your book to your prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, ولو أنهم إذ ظلموا أنفسهم جاءوك فاستغفروا الله واستغفر لهم الرسول لوجدوا الله توابا رحيما. The 64th verse of Surah An-Nisa. It means, and had they, when they wronged themselves by sinning, gone to you, O Muhammad, and then sought the forgiveness of God, and the messenger sought forgiveness for them, that's you, O Muhammad, they would have found Allah forgiving and merciful. 64th ayah of Surah An-Nisa. So this Abu al-Wafa ibn Aqil, this Hanbali, he's saying it's recommended to say this when you go to the grave. Allahumma innaka qulta fi kitabika li nabiyyik. Oh Allah, you did indeed say in your book to your prophet this ayah that we just recited. Wa inni qad ataytu nabiyyak. And I have come to your prophet. This means, although he has passed away, I am doing what the ayah recommends be done. Coming to your prophet. Because the ayah doesn't say, if they came to you while you're alive. It just says, if they came to you. Ta'iban mustaghfira. I came to your prophet repenting and seeking forgiveness. فَأَسْأَلُكَ أَن تُوجِبَ لِلْمَغْفِرَةَ كَمَا أَوْجَبْتَهَا لِمَنْ أَتَاهُ فِي حَيَاتِهِ. And so I ask you to make me deserving of forgiveness as you made someone who came to him during his life eligible for it. Allahumma inni atawajjahu ilayka bi nabiyyik sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Oh Allah, I do indeed turn myself to you by your prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Nabiyyur rahmati, the prophet of mercy. Ya Rasulallah, O messenger of Allah. Inni atawajjahu bika ila rabbi liyaghfira li dhunubi. I do indeed turn myself by you to my Lord so that he forgives me my sins. Why the Shaykh mentioned this Shaykh Ibn Aqil, the Hanbali? Because he's a master of the Hanbali school, the school that Ibn Taymiyyah claims to follow. فبعد هذا كيف يقول بعضهم إن زيارة قبر النبي للتبرك به والتوسل به زيارة شركية. So after this, how could some say that visiting the Prophet's grave for blessings and that tawassul by the Prophet for tawassul by the Prophet is a paganistic visit? That's why Wahhabi is so mean, dry. فَمَا أَبْعَدَ هَؤُلَاءِ عَنِ الْحَقِّ. How far those people are from the truth. ثُمَّ إِنَّ أَحَدَ حُفَّاظِ الْحَدِيثِ وَاسْمُهُ الْحَافِظُ سِرَاجُ الدِّينِ ابْنُ الْمُلَقِّنِ. And furthermore, one of the Hafiz of Hadith, his name is Hafiz Sirajuddin ibn al-Mulaqqin. هذا توفي بعد ابن تيمية بنحو 60 سنة. He died after Ibn Taymiyyah by about 60 years. وهو من الفقهاء الشافعيين. And he is a Shafi'i jurist. ذكر عن نفسه. He mentioned about himself. فقال, he said, ذهبت إلى قبر معروف الكرخي. I went to the grave of Ma'ruf al-Karkhi. وقفت ودعوت الله عدة مرات. I stood and prayed to God numerous times. فالأمر الذي كان يصعب علي ينقضي عندما أدعو الله هناك عند قبره. And so, the matter that was difficult for me would be fulfilled when I would pray to God there at his grave. هذا معروف الكرخي من الأولياء البارزين. This one, Ma'ruf al-Karkhi, is one of the prominent saints. Al-Mashhurina fi Baghdad, one of the famous ones from Baghdad. معروف عند العامة والخاصة يقصدون قبره للتبرك. He is known to the commoners and to the elites. They all seek his grave for seeking blessings. But that's why Wahhabi is going to say, yeah, all of them are grave worshippers. That's why Wahhabi creed is that the nation at large are kuffar. But this one, sometimes you got to pull it out of them. They won't offer it for you, but in my experience, they won't deny it. They just won't admit to it. But one time, one Wahhabi did admit to it, talking to me. He did admit it. When I stayed on his case, he said, well, how could they not be grave worshippers? Talking about the nation at large. This one, Ma'ruf al-Karkhi, his story is that he was a muwahhid since he was a child, monotheist. And his family used to bring a tutor for him to teach him their blasphemy, and he wouldn't accept shirk. And he used to say, one, yani God is one. And then he would be punished. So he ran away from home. And he met the Muslims. And he became a Muslim. And he became a high-ranking one, obviously. Years later, he came home. He knocked on the door. His parents said, we don't care who's at this door. If it's our son, Ma'ruf, then we will be his religion. And it was him. And then they became Muslims. وذكر الحافظ الخطيب البغدادي في تاريخ بغداد. And the Hafiz Al-Khatib Al-Baghdadi mentioned in his book, The History of Baghdad, عن الحسن ibn Ibrahim Al-Khalal, from Al-Hasan ibn Ibrahim Al-Khalal, أنه قال, that he said, ما همني أمر فقصدت قبر موسى بن جعفر فتوسلت به إلا سهل الله تعالى لي ما أحب. He said, I was never concerned about a matter, and then sought the grave of Musa ibn Ja'far, and then made tawassul by him, but that Allah Ta'ala facilitated for me what I wanted. Intaha, end quote. That's one of the advantages to being in Muslim country. One of the advantages to being in Muslim country. The graves of the pious. So if you have friends who go to Muslim countries, tell them, make dua for me at the graves if you go to the graves. Then maybe someone's going to make dua for you at Shafi'i's grave, or at Suyuti's grave, or Ibn Hajar Al-Asqalani's grave, or someone else's grave, somewhere in Turkey, or somewhere in Iraq, or somewhere in Egypt, or somewhere in Lebanon. وذكر عن بعض أكابر السلف ممن كان في زمن الإمام أحمد بن حنبل. And he mentioned about one of the elites of the Salaf, who was at the time of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. واسمه إبراهيم الحربي. This one's name is Ibrahim Al-Harbi, very famous one. He's mujtahid. Abu Ishaq. He's called Abu Ishaq. وكان حافظا فقيها مجتهدا. He was a hafiz, a hadith headmaster, and he was a jurist, and he was a mujtahid. يشبه بأحمد بن حنبل بأحمد بن حنبل. He was compared to Ahmad ibn Hanbal. وكان الإمام أحمد يرسل ابنه ليتعلم عنده الحديث. And Imam Ahmad used to send his son to him to learn hadiths from him. أنه قال, he said, قبر معروف الترياق المجرب. قبر معروف الترياق المجرب. He said, the grave of Ma'ruf Al-Karhi is the tested potion. So here, this is the Shaykh citing this from some of the elites from the Salaf. I saw in a Wahhabi publication that they were disparaging Shaykh Abdullah, and to prove, according to them, that he's a grave worshipper, that he said the grave of Ma'ruf is at-tiryaq al-mujarrab. Ma'ruf's grave is the tested potion. They didn't even cite him. They didn't say, he said in citing, and he cited some of the elites who said, they just said, this is what Abdullah Al-Harariyy said. And they put it forward like to say, look at his kufr here, look at his deviance here. وَالتِّرْيَاقُ هُوَ دَوَاءٌ مُرَكَّبٌ مِنْ أَجْزَاءٍ. Tiryaq, which I translated as potion, it is medicine concocted from various ingredients. وَهُوَ مَعْرُوفٌ عِنْدَ الْأَطِبَّاءِ الْقُدَامَى. And it's known to the ancient doctors. من كثرة منافعه, because of its many benefits. وهو عندهم أنواع, and it has different kinds. شبه الحربي قبر معروف بالترياق في كثرة الانتفاع. Al-Harbi compared the grave of Ma'ruf to this potion because of its many benefits. فكأن الحربي قال أيها الناس اقصدوا قبر معروف تبركا به من كثرة منافعه. It's as if Al-Harbi said, oh people, seek the grave of Ma'ruf for seeking blessings there because of its many benefits. Subhanallah. All this I didn't translate and put into the outstanding reference. It was originally the plan to translate all of this, put it into the outstanding reference. But I found it very long, so I just took just a little bit of information, yani, whatever's there. If you know the book, you know it's there. And then there's a statement there. The Shaykh has a lot more details to this issue. If you want to see them, look in his book, look in his explanation of As-Sirat Al-Mustaqim. So I was referring to all what we're reading now. And look in Sarih Al-Bayan. He has a lot more there too of this type of talk. وذكر أيضا عن عبيد الله بن عبد الرحمن ibn Muhammad الزهري. And he also mentioned, who's the speaker here? Al-Harbi. He mentioned also from Ubaydullah ibn Abd al-Rahman ibn Muhammad al-Zuhri, أنه قال, that he said, سمعت أبي يقول, I heard my father saying, قبر معروف الكرخي مجرب لقضاء الحوائج. The grave of Ma'ruf al-Karhi is tested for getting the needs fulfilled. So all this very dirty talk to Wahhabi, very nasty, ugly, repulsive, dirty talk to a Wahhabi makes his heart shrivel in hatred. What you call, and it is said, إنه من قرأ عنده 100 مرة قل هو الله أحد وَسَأَلَ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى مَا يُرِيدُ. It is said that anyone who recites there at that grave, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدْ, the whole surah, Surah Al-Ikhlas, 100 times, and then he asked Allah Ta'ala for what he wants, قَضَى اللَّهُ لَهُ حَاجَتَهُ, then Allah would fulfill his need for him. I wish I were there. I wish I were there. Insha'Allah Ta'ala, what we're going to do then, let's make tawassul, yani, not right now. Let's make tawassul by Ma'ruf Al-Qarhi. You're going to do your own. When you pray, when you have a need or something you're desperate for, make tawassul by Ma'ruf Al-Qarhi if you can't get to his grave. And if you can get to his grave, make dua there, and don't forget to make dua for me, please. Yani, even if I'm dead, make dua for me at the grave of Ma'ruf Al-Qarhi. وذكر عن أبي عبد الله المحاملي أنه قال, and he mentioned about Abu Abdullah Al-Mahamili that he said, أعرف قبر معروف الكرخي منذ 70 سنة. I've known Ma'ruf's grave, Ma'ruf Al-Qarhi's grave, for 70 years. ما قصده مهموم إلا فرج الله همه. No one in distress sought out that grave without Allah relieving his trouble for him. وروى عن الشافعي أنه كان يقول, and now also, by the way, before I read here, so someone might say, even a Wahhabi, or someone who's not a Wahhabi, why do for him though? Why not just the Messenger of Allah? He's the best. It's true he's the best, but because some slaves of Allah, they have a secret. They have something about them. Don't you remember that the Prophet ﷺ, he saw Bilal's footsteps in paradise? Or he heard them. He didn't know why. What is that? He asked Bilal, what did you do? Or what do you do? I'm mentioning that for you to say to you that some slaves of Allah, they have a secret. They have a benefit that Allah gave them or put in them. Like, for example, you know Dhunnun al-Misri. Why is it called Dhunnun? The Dhu means the one who has. Noon is the letter Noon. Because he used to do exorcism. That means taking the genie out of someone's body. He used to do exorcism by writing Noon on someone's forehead with his finger only, just his finger. So someone, they knew about that, what Dhunnun used to do. So he wanted to do an exorcism. So he wrote Noon on the possessed person's forehead. And then the devil spoke on that person's tongue. The devil said, Noon is just Noon. The finger is different. Means you don't have this man's secret. So that's why you might want to make tawassul by Ma'ruf Al-Qarhi, though you could make tawassul by the Prophet ﷺ. Or you might want to make tawassul by Al-Rifa'i. Or you might want to make tawassul by Sibawayh. Or like that. Or by Al-Ash'ari, for example. I'll tell you, once I was in a Nahu lesson. A Nahu test. So I made tawassul by Sibawayh. And then I remembered answers to stuff, yani, I never even hardly remembered hearing it. But the answers came to me. Subhanallah. I'm just telling you that for your benefit. وروى عن الشافعي أنه كان يقول, and he narrated about Ash-Shafi'i that he used to say, إني لأتبرك بأبي حنيفة. I do indeed seek blessings by Abu Hanifa. وأجيء إلى قبره في كل يوم يعني زائرا. And I go to his grave every day. فإذا عرضت لي حاجة صليت ركعتين وجئت إلى قبره. So if I had a need, I would pray 2 rak'ats and then go to his grave. وَسَأَلْتُ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى الْحَاجَةِ, and I would ask Allah Ta'ala for my need عنده there. فَمَا تَبْعُدُ عَنِّي حَتَّى تُقْضَى, and then it won't be long before it is fulfilled. Okay, let me read this last paragraph here. وَقَدْ ذَكَرَ الْحَافِظُ الْجَزَرِيُّ وَهُوَ شَيْخُ الْقُرَّاءِ. Hafiz al-Jazari, and he is the Shaykh of the reciters. Yani, he's the Shaykh of the latter-day recitation scholars. وَكَانَ مِنْ حُفَّاظِ الْحَدِيثِ, he was a hadith headmaster. He mentioned في كتاب له يسمى الحصن الحصين, in a book of his called Al-Hisn Al-Hasin, the fortified fort. وكذلك ذكر في مختصره, and he also mentioned in his summary, he said من مواضع إجابة دعاء قبور الصالحين, one of the places of answered supplication is the graves of the pious. انتهى, end quote. وهذا الحافظ جاء بعد ابن تيمية بنحو 100 سنة. This Hafiz came after Ibn Taymiyyah by about 100 years. وَلَمْ يُنْكِرْ عَلَيْهِ الْعُلَمَاء, and the scholars never objected to him. إِلَّا أَنْ يَكُونَ بَعْضُ الشَّاذِينَ الَّذِينَ لَحِقُوا نُفَاةَ التَّوَسُّلِ مِنْ أَتْبَاعِ ابْنِ تَيْمِيَّةَ. Unless, no one criticized him, unless that one were some deviant person who's annexed into the deniers of tawassul amongst the followers of Ibn Taymiyyah. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. We'll stop there. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullahu khayran. See you next week, inshallah.